Is it?
Are you sure? Are you sure? I'm looking at the oh, yep. I see what happened. He's right. Never doubt W. Scottus won.
Or the Excel sheet, or not the Excel sheet.
Oh, I always doubt
the sheet, because sometimes
I always doubt the sheet. No, what happened was I copied and pasted from a screen that had not been updated. It was still showing Tuesday's episode, wasn't showing Wednesday's episode, and so when that happened,
3058.
If I've learned but one thing today, it's that W. Scottus 1 is always right. All right, 3058. Thank you, W. Scottus 1. It is now fixed. If any of you saw an episode number 3057 attached to this episode, you imagined it. It was never there. You know why we call W. Scottus 1 left eye, right? Because I always right.
What?
Because he burnt down Andre Rison's house?
That too.
Deep cut.
I started to say that before I realized you'd stepped away from the chair. And I was very sad because I knew Roger wouldn't get that illusion.
I ran right back. I could make a joke about the dearly departed Lisa Left Eye Love burning down Andre Rison's house.
And dearly departed she is, and missed. No joke.
All right, I'll need control.
Yes, sir.
That was so funny. I almost laughed. Said Zoe brings bacon. I would fist bump her, but I can't.
Yep. You're not a big TLC fan? Is that the problem, Roger?
If it's a requirement, I will be.
No. Not a bit of it.
Like the band TLC.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The singing group.
Come on. Don't go chasing waterfalls. I mean, just stick to the river.
You know, I never liked that song. I always found it.
Okay, but you know the song. See?
Yeah. I know.
Dago says, I would not get a sports joke, but I love me some TLC. Viocal says, I love TLC. We have TLC fans in the house. This is good.
Well, yeah. Well, for them, we give them the red light special.
All right. Shall we begin?
All right. Hold on. Wait 2 seconds.
1, 2.
The Daily Tech News Show.
Just kidding. Literal man strikes again. Here we go. TLC has some great educational programming. And Lemon, who is convinced that I only make 90s references until I don't, jumps in out of nowhere. And another 90s reference.
Oh, come on. Stop that. Tom does not only make... I always know Tom is the guy who makes 70s references.
Yeah, see? I try to spread it around to all decades.
Yeah, sure.
I'll go Dickensian if I need to.
Oh, damn!
All right, shall we?
Yeah.
Here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by listeners just like me and you, not outside organizations. To find out how you can contribute, visit dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, June 22nd, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Justin Robert Young is in the house, and we are ready to interpret the technology news of the day to help give you a greater understanding of what the heck is going on.
Absolutely. We endeavor to bring you a better world, we think.
Better living through chemistry is a phrase that I just came up with.
As well as, was it a Chemical Brothers album?
Possibly. Another 90s reference. There we go. Let's start with a few tech things you should know about. Imagination Technologies has initiated a formal sale process after receiving acquisition offers from several parties. If you were like, wait a minute, who are they again? They are the folks that, after news in April that Apple would not use their graphics processing designs in future iPhones, said that they were going to sue Apple. Well, they didn't say they were going to sue Apple. They said that Apple better prove to them that they weren't going to use their processes because they were pretty sure that that couldn't be possible. And today they've initiated a formal sale process. So it turns out maybe they are convinced that Apple can make graphics processing without their intellectual property.
Hit up Tim Cook with that one last chance text message, and all they got in return was a new phone. Who dis? Amazon announced that the Echo Show smart speaker with a screen will be available to display live streams from smart home cameras, including Ring, Arlo, Nest, August, and more. Amazon introduced the Smart Home Skill API to integrate live feeds with Echo devices. The Amazon Echo Show costs $230 and starts shipping June 28th.
That's Felicia Day's birthday.
I think it's also somebody else's.
Yeah, Elon Musk's birthday as well.
Yeah, I mean, also another guy. I mean, I hear a Tech News Show host's birthday that day as well.
The governor of Wisconsin signed a law Wednesday permitting the use of delivery robots under 80 pounds in crosswalks and on sidewalks in the state. This is from Starship Technologies, the Estonian company that has been testing these delivery robots in the DC area, in parts of the Bay Area, and has been encouraging similar laws. They got laws on the books in Virginia and Idaho so far.
Absolutely. And, you have to assume that they, they seem to have a good lobbying effort as well as a technology push.
Yeah, well, I'm still a little skeptical that this is going to catch on, but they're doing the things that will ease the road, so to speak.
Certainly. 1,000 Uber employees signed a letter to the company's board of directors asking Travis Kalanick to be restored in an operational role with the company. Another group of employees is circulating a petition that calls for Kalanick's reinstatement.
So 15,000 employees, take that as you will. You've got two efforts underway.
15,000 or 1,500?
15. What did I say? 15,000, I think, right?
50,000. Okay.
Now you've got me wondering. No, yeah, The Verge reports it as 15,000 employees.
It is 15,000 employees. I talked to some people within Uber yesterday, and this is fairly consistent with what you are hearing from inside. I mean, a lot of people believe that not only here's a lot of what I think the general public did not see is that Kalanick over the last few months has effectively went into the public square of Uber's HQ in San Francisco and literally just got hit with the hair whip by any employee that wanted to hit him in these town hall meetings, asking him tough questions as he repeated over and over, I want to do better, I want to do better, I want to do better. Beyond that and a bunker mentality that they feel was eventually breached by the board, I think that it's understandable for these employees to say, well, hey, this guy brought us to this point. Why are we going away from it? Because outsiders want that to happen.
Yeah. And the board are always considered outsiders by employees. That's just the way of things because the board doesn't walk around doing town hall meetings and talking to people every day. So even though they aren't technically outsiders, they definitely feel like outsiders. Now, here are some more top stories. Facebook has launched a new feature in India that lets users choose to prevent others from sending, sharing, or downloading their profile picture. It also stops strangers from tagging themselves in a profile image. Protected profile images will have a blue border, and on Android, screenshots of the picture will not be allowed where possible. It's been a problem in India that people will screenshot profile pictures and then use them in ways that from the just not approved to the harassing. And this is an effort by Facebook to combat that.
I'm kind of surprised this hasn't happened earlier. I've had friends of mine that have had their pictures scraped and put into different profiles where people are presenting themselves not as the people whose picture they've stolen, but other people who would like to pretend that they are the in this case a lady that they stole the pictures from. It seems like kind of a no-brainer feature, but I'm sure it's probably on some long list of things to eventually get to, and India finally gave them the reason to push that to the top.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is pervasive around the world, but it's not the worst abuse, just stealing a picture and pretending to be somebody else. There's a lot of other things going on. We don't know if Facebook has any plans to bring this outside of India, but it is something that a lot of people have been hoping would be implemented there.
Recode report sources tell it Tesla. Yes, Tesla, the auto manufacturer, is in talks with music labels over launching a streaming service to be bundled with its cars. Meanwhile, Apple's deal with music labels for Apple Music expires at the end of June. Bloomberg reports that its sources say Apple is trying to get a reduction of the 58% royalty rate in exchange for a guarantee of subscriber growth.
So, streaming. Remember a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, the tone of the debate was streaming services are ripping us off. They're undermining artists, and the record labels were trotting out as many artists as they could convince to do it to hammer away against streaming services. These streaming services, they don't pay enough. We get tens of hundredths of a cent per song. It's nothing. It's horrible. Until the streaming services finally reached scale, at which point the record labels were saying, well, yeah, I mean, if you can guarantee this many subscribers, we'll cut that rate. No problem. That rate that we said was usurious a year ago, we'll make it lower. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. That was only if you were going to be a growing company. Oh, well, now we'll step right this way, Mr. Apple, Mr. Spotify. Oh, Mr. Musk, so good to see you.
I hear you have a birthday coming up. What if you started some music streaming? Could we interested you in that?
All right, real quick. Tesla as its own roll your own music streaming service. A lot of people kind of gave this a big fat buh on Twitter when the report broke. I kind of think it's sort of brilliant that in my household, we already have two music streaming services in Spotify and Apple Music. If I was really rich, I'd probably have one for one whose name escapes me, just so I could get their album exclusives for Rihanna, Beyonce, and Jay-Z. But if you buy a Tesla, why shouldn't it come with a streaming music service as well that you don't have to hook up your phone for? I mean,
I'll tell you why. Because now I have to manage another service. I don't want that. I just want the service I use to be available in my car. And if I switch services, I don't want to have to switch cars to make it work.
Yeah, but I guess the idea is it works if it's even easier. Right. And I guess that is it?
Yeah.
I mean, like, we don't know how it's going to be implemented.
Just give me access to the music service I have right now. Make it easy. You can do that. But don't create a new service that I got to sign. I know it's free. I know it came with the car, but now I have to manage more playlists and move things over. Wait, where did I add that song? Was it in the car or was it on my music service on my phone? No, I don't like that at all.
All right. I feel like you're being a curmudgeon. 2 corrections. Number 1, Jay-Z's, the music service that Jay-Z has bought into is Tidal. And number 2, just to correct that Uber story, we are getting pushback that it's 15,000 employees, 1,000 signatures.
Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah.
And I think I confused you and everyone else. 1,000 signatures.
Yes.
Out of 15,000 employees.
There we go. Just to be clear.
When you asked me 15,000, I thought you were meaning the employees.
Yeah. No. So, yeah, 1,000 signatures, 15,000 employees, just in case anybody's confused.
Good. Have we put that to rest? All right.
It's rested.
Waymo added a filing to its trade secrets lawsuit against Uber, accusing the ride-hailing company of contempt. As part of the case's discovery process, Uber revealed on June 5th that back in March of 2016, Anthony Lewandowski told then CEO Travis Kalanick that Lewandowski had 5 disks of Google information. Uber says Kalanick told Lewandowski, you leave that stuff at home, that Uber did not want the information. Don't bring it to Uber. Lewandowski told Uber the disks had been destroyed, and Uber says it never knew what was on them. Could have been copies of Windows 3.1 as far as they know. No idea what it is. Waymo claims that the delayed disclosure of the conversation, however, still violates Judge William Alsup's order to turn over any information related to Google when the case was first put into court earlier this year.
We were talking earlier today about exactly how relevant this story is, considering that Kalanick is the former CEO and Lewandowski is a former employee of Uber.
Kalanick's still a board member, though.
Former CEO.
Yeah.
And Lewandowski is former everything.
Lewandowski is on a permanent leave for the time being.
Considering how many problems he brought to that company, I feel like everybody, all 15,000 employees, have deleted that from his address, their address books off their phone. You seem to believe that this still is a bigger thing than now people are making out of it. The media is making out of it because it is so vital to Uber's future.
Yeah, I think it shows that some people have an interest in telling a salacious story about Travis Kalanick. And when that story is no longer interesting, their part of their interest in this goes away. But to be honest, the importance here is that Waymo, the Alphabet company, could shut down Uber's ability to research autonomous cars. It's possible. Now, it's not a foregone conclusion. And even if Waymo wins the case, they could win it in such a way that Uber still is able to continue with their research. But this is an existential threat to Uber's future. It doesn't affect what they do right now. The existential threat to what they do right now is the entire missing C-level organization and the 14-member committee that's running the company. So I think this is incredibly significant. The case is incredibly significant to Uber's future. This particular revelation is interesting. It's interesting that this conversation happened. Whether this ends up playing significantly in the eventual decision of the case, I doubt.
Plot twist, all 5 discs were AOL copies with over 15,000 free hours.
I got these 15 free hours from AOL that I picked up at Google. They're Google's disc. Don't bring them in, man.
Bring them in, man. I don't care if you got 5 on it. Google Glass received a firmware and companion smartphone app update. Hold on. That again. Google Glass received a firmware and companion smartphone app update. The first update for the app since September 2014. How young we were. The My Glass companion app now lets users hook up Bluetooth devices like keyboards and mice to the Glass headsets. Glass is still used by many enterprise settings.
Yeah, Glass never went away. What happened is there was a nice public implosion and Google backed far away from what had turned into a press nightmare around it. But there were companies that had deployed it into factory settings and enterprise settings, and they have continued to use it and work with Google on it since that time. There's a team dedicated to just that. And I'm not surprised that they would say at some point, well, a lot of these enterprise companies have developed their own apps for interacting with it, but we need to update the app for these other companies. So let's do that. I don't know that this means Google Glass is alive any more than I personally believe Google Glass was ever totally dead.
Okay. This is another thing. Because I said when they began refocusing Google Glass for enterprise that this was indeed Google Glass receding from most public consciousness. And yes, it is safe to say that Google Glass is not dead in the same way that Rick Springfield is still touring throughout the United States and Europe. You can go to your county fair and you can see Rick Springfield perform if you want. Google Glass, you can still get it. You can still use it at a very specific setting. But otherwise, Google Glass is dead for all intents and purposes.
All right, you forced my hand, and my apologies to those who watched the Twitch stream with me and Justin earlier today. But the better comparison is Steve Largent, former Seahawks quarterback, and eventually head of the CTIA, who went from pop, sports star to enterprise stalwart That's exactly what Google Glass is following the Largent plan.
Oh, stop it. You are insulting Steve Largent if you are comparing his contribution to the enterprise world of America to that of Google Glass. Apologize to Steve Largent. He was in that position for 11 years.
Listen, I'll apologize to Steve Largent for calling him a quarterback when I believe that he was in fact a wide receiver, but I will not apologize for that comparison.
You should. You owe Steve Largent an apology, and I won't stop it till I won't. Well, I'm resting now. All right, I've already run out of steam.
All right, fine.
Slander all you want.
Who knew we would be talking about Google Glass this week, though? Huh? How about that?
I know.
Finally, Chinese bicycle sharing company Mobike has set up a subsidiary in Fukuoka, Japan, with plans to begin service there later in the year. Mobike has launched service in Singapore and Manchester in the UK as part of its expansion outside China. So this is the company to watch. I don't do this often enough. I sort of talk about a company several times and figure like you'll catch on. You'll get that this is interesting. Like with Line, I was talking about Line for years. I think Mobike is one of those companies to keep an eye on, that they are going to become quite a lot bigger than you would expect from a bike sharing company, because there's tons of bike sharing companies and tons of different ways of doing bike sharing around the world. But Mobike seems to have cracked the code on this.
So you are saying that this is your Tom Merritt lead pipe lock of the century, that Mobike?
Mobike is my one to watch.
Yeah. What is it about it that you feel so confident that it has something that the others don't?
The ability to create high customer satisfaction and the ability to figure out markets to move into before people start talking about why you haven't moved into markets. They're ahead of the game. And it's just typical that if a company doesn't come out of the Silicon Valley bubble, it often gets overlooked.
Do you think it's limited to places that have a certain kind of bicycle culture, though? Obviously, China and Singapore and even the UK, which does not is its own very specific way of getting around. Like a bike is worth more or less.
Yeah, no, it's limited to the majority of the surface of the earth where people are part of bike culture. You're right. Not going to play well in Texas. True.
Calm down. Well, I mean, tell that to Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, except for Austin, right?
Man, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you, ever since we started talking about Steve Largent, you just got like you're just this is a confident side of Tom that I've been for a while.
Mobike, keep an eye on it. But no, I think this is fascinating, and I think it'll be interesting to see. Like, all right, and they're not picking Tokyo and London. I mean, Singapore. You don't go to Singapore without going to Singapore, because that's all there is there. And it's got a hell of a bike culture, and it's very close to where Mobike came up in China, so that makes a lot of sense. Trying the secondary markets in Japan and the UK is very interesting.
Singapore is also rich, which is another
for sure
element is that it is both tiny and rich,
which may not be Mobike's best play, because this is for. Maybe somebody's like, a ride hailing service is too rich for my blood, but a bike sharing service, yeah, I can get on board with that. Folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines in each day, about 5 minutes is all you need. Go subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines at dailytechheadlines.com. You can also get it as a flash briefing on your Amazon Echo and in the Anchor app at anchor.fm. I've been getting lots of cool calls from people on the Anchor app, which is kind of a fun thing.
Nice.
Yeah. That is a look at our top stories. Except Facebook has changed its mission, Justin.
Yeah.
Old mission statement, making the world more open and connected. New mission statement, close it all down. Cut them off. No, that's not it at all. Facebook said, making the world more open and connected was good, but it had some downsides that we didn't anticipate, as far as people isolating themselves, even while they're connected, et cetera, et cetera. So the new mission statement is, give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. They say it's not enough to just open it up and make the connection available. You got to encourage people to get along with each other. So their goal is to help 1 billion people join meaningful communities. Facebook Chief Product Officer Chris Cox told TechCrunch, "We're getting to a size where it's worth really taking a careful look at what are all the things that we can do to make social media the greatest force for good possible. Now, this is interesting, and we're going to take this in a little bit of a different direction. But before we do, Facebook is now seen as a company responsible for your social welfare. And I'm not saying they're getting a pass. There are plenty of criticisms of Facebook still out there.
Sure.
But the old 5 years ago of like, I hate Facebook tone has mellowed considerably. And Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg in particular, doing a lot to say, hey, no, folks, we really want to improve. And it feels like people are receptive to that.
And part of that, as we're going to get into in a second, is him trying to take more active responsibility to his own image personally, knowing that that means something as it reflects on his company. But there is no doubt that Facebook was chastened by the 2016 election, and specifically their initial response that they didn't really feel like they had much to do with the outcome. That was slapped back on and said that, no, you know exactly that these fake news things are spreading and that you could have done more. You could have helped algorithmically or more specifically helped shape a better discourse in the American democracy. And then, of course, extrapolate that to around the world.
Yeah. However,
Sorry,
exactly. Go with the however.
However, let's focus on Zuckerberg, the man, and his shaping of himself as a CEO, because, you know, before he was having his fun little yearly challenges about learning Mandarin and only eating what he killed, and on the Jarvisization of his own house,
Taking a tour to meet the people.
Or to meet the people, to meet local newspaper writers in Mississippi or Alabama, I can't remember, doing things that, if let's assume that he is not trying to set up a run for president, he is certainly doing things that politicians do to bring forth his humanity, put that on display. So the only thing he is judged on is not just the output of this larger organization that he is tied to. Before that, the Next Web writes, he bore a closer than passing resemblance to another founder and CEO who has had a less exciting week. Right, Tom?
Yeah, Brian Clark on the Next Web wrote an article called "Mark Zuckerberg was Travis Kalanick before we ever knew the name." Now, some of the comparisons are a little bit strained in my opinion, but I think Clark has a point. Zuck in the mid-2000s was bro culture of the mid-2000s. He played fast and loose with rules. The criticism of Facebook at the time was they didn't have enough women working there, that they moved fast and broke things, and that you had to play along with their rough culture to get along. They had plenty of PR disasters in their day. They had legal trouble. They have been accused of stealing intellectual property, the Winklevoss twins, and held up as an emblem of what's wrong with tech. I think it's easy to forget with the Zuckerberg makeover that he used to be considered somewhat of an impending disaster. And what Clark gets absolutely right is the difference between Zuck and Kalanick is that Zuck got advice from Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and was willing to let Sheryl Sandberg come in as COO and provide a stabilizing and helpful influence.
Here's what I don't want this to devolve into, because I think it is a harmful, an actively harmful element for people that are following tech news, that care about tech news, but can easily get trapped in what I believe to be lazy narratives. Because I don't think that Mark Zuckerberg is the same person as Travis Kalanick. I think that they are their own people that have their own pluses and minuses. What they share is what happens when a tech company in Silicon Valley, Facebook in the South Bay, and Kalanick in San Francisco, drawing from the same pool of people, explodes. And some of that stuff is a symptom of organizations larger than them, as in the gender imbalance. And not to say that Silicon Valley companies can't do better to help remedy that, but part of it is a larger culture that it goes as far as a public school education and colleges of higher learning not turning out the same amount of women in these very important fields as they should. All that being said, when faced with similar issues, Mark Zuckerberg took a different path than Travis Kalanick, and I don't feel comfortable saying that the reasons why they made the decisions that they did are because of them reflecting inside of themselves, instead of they were facing vastly different challenges. Kalanick, for Uber to survive, it had to be aggressive and fight. It had to move fast and break things to be the company that it was. Now, you can do that more responsibly, as the board has obviously made the decision. But Zuckerberg did not face that necessarily. He did not face the idea that every single day he had to make decisions on how to defy city and state governments because of what they felt to be unjust, restrictive laws.
Well, sure, maybe. Although you could argue that in Europe, Facebook has done just that. I think for me, the difference between them is that it's tempting to want to say it's the system that's wrong, it's the person that's wrong, and it's both. The system in tech does allow for this to happen. Don't forget, Facebook was started because Zuckerberg and his friends wanted to look at pictures of girls in college. All right. So this is not a pure intention beginning. I'm not condemning it either. I'm not saying anything one way or another, but I'm saying is that this started out of what people often call bro culture. Facebook started right out of that. Mark Zuckerberg is a different guy than Travis Kalanick, and the advisors around him were different. Does the system allow for these mistakes? Yes, but it takes the people to make the mistakes. And so maybe the system could be modified a little to help people not make those mistakes. But if you have the right person with the right personality, he'll convince anybody to do anything. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing here.
Sure. And I do think it's safe to say that we're not seeing the whole story. And that would probably be an argument by both these people, is that a lot of the decisions that we see that are portrayed through the lenses that we see them are, from their perspective, distorted, if not unfair. And these decisions are not, for example, there is a large thought inside of Uber that it is not that the altruistic idea of Uber has crossed a line, and finally it's time for us to get a responsible CEO in here because we need to be a more responsible company, is a justification for, you want to know what, this is going to hurt the IPO, so we just need you to get out of here, Travis, so we can move this IPO along.
Well, and again, when you look at Facebook, what happened is concerned people stepped in and said, let's help you get better. What happened at Uber was people ignored a problem until it was really bad and then said, you know what, we're just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, there was also the idea with Uber that Uber felt, from as I understand it, Kalanick felt kind of burned by the fact that Uber got different kinds of investors because people thought that his business model wasn't workable, that you couldn't break the taxi unions, that it was going to be a gigantic money pit, and ultimately he was going to fail. So there's an element inside of him that says, well, then what the hell do you guys know? I built the fastest growing company of all time.
Yeah,
I did it.
It doesn't give you a blank check to do whatever you want. But maybe you should, after a leave of absence, give the CEO a chance to say, okay, let's see what you can do. And I think we touched on this yesterday, but I think it underlies a lack of faith in the business model, and a sort of a secondary concern that was there all along and has nothing to do with any of these controversies, that says, you know what, maybe we should just change the helm. And this gives us a chance to justify it.
It's a very complex issue. and it's one that I always personally, and this is not me, lecturing anybody, but I just know for me trying to understand these stories is I always want to be open to the idea that I don't know everything. And this is not simply about a toxic founders culture. I think that very much it does have to do with an element of gender imbalance.
I mean, if I may, I think what you're saying is all of these are problems that need to be fixed, but that isn't the only story going.
Well, at the very least, need to be understood before we as we do in celebrity culture, because again, these people are celebrities. There's a reason why Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want to go to a random house in Ohio and sit down for meatloaf dinner. Like, I'm sure he could think of another thing that he would like to do on that day. Why does he do it? Because he wants to be thought of better. So his company, who he feels a tremendous leadership for, will not be felt worse about because they feel bad. Because in large part, people feel bad about him. And that's the problem that Kalanick did find himself in, is all of a sudden when he's yelling at an Uber driver, no matter how much he feels, that was surreptitiously recorded and they really kind of took things out of context, and at least I'm writing in my own service and I'm not taking some other cab or ensuring that people aren't recording me. I don't have a private driver. At the end of the day, people tied that video to the sexual harassment letters, to every other story. He became the symptom that, or the root cause of all these other symptoms. And he let his personal PR affect the company. And that is a part, if not the full story, of why he is no longer the CEO.
Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. A bunch of quick messages of the day. Do appreciate it when you guys have good, concise thoughts. Jason from Hardly Any Sunshine, Minnesota says, hey guys, your mention about Amazon blocking competitors' websites, it was a patent that would allow that in locations, made me think of our local grocery store switching to satellite radio to prevent ads from the competing chain blaring in the produce section. Nothing new under the sun, says Jason.
My least favorite kind of articles ever is let's find patent filings and assign narratives to them.
Russell says, on yesterday's show, you and Patrick were discussing the possibility that Twitter could monetize things like super likes or something similar, letting people promote their feeds in other ways. We run a fairly robust Twitter feed for our business and think that we could certainly take advantage of something like this to promote clients, projects, etc. At the individual level, it might not work as well, but for a business, the cost might be relatively smaller.
I'll tell you what, sounds like a decent way.
Jupe says, hola and good day from the tropical heat in the Netherlands. As you shortly discussed Uber in the railroad era, go watch Hell on Wheels from AMC. Also, my suggestion for Cord Killers contest. So the Uber of the railroad era is apparently the narrative in Hell on Wheels, which takes place in the 19th century.
There we go. Big shout out to Common.
And then on Wednesday's show, Scott was trying to identify an apt comparison to the current general perceptions of Lyft versus Uber, and Paul in Springfield, Virginia, would like to suggest Target and Walmart.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I guess Target being Lyft, Walmart being Uber.
Well, Walmart. Yeah. I mean, although I don't know, whenever we get into these Apple just kind of things, it's always my reaction is always wait.
I mean, it's an analogy, right? You can't push it too far. But thank you, Justin Robert Young, as always, for joining us. What you got going on to tell folks about?
Well, next week I'm going to talk to you all about my upcoming Kickstarter. Wait, no, I won't. I'll be already gone during Nerdtacular. So this week I'm going to tell you about my upcoming Kickstarter, and that is Action News coming to Kickstarter on June 30th. It is a brand new card game from the folks that brought you The Contender. You and your friends are in a television news setting. One of you is the anchor, the others are reporters. You build your script based on which are all real stories based on sentence fragments. You're going to hear me talk about this for the next month, so I'll spare you for it, but just know June 30th on Kickstarter Follow me on Twitter at Justin R. Young if you want more details. And you can follow our account right there on Kickstarter if you want to make sure that you are in the loop when we run it. But here's something else I do want to mention, and that is that every day that I am on the show, Tom and I, earlier in that day, come on my Twitch channel and do what I used to love to do when I worked in newspapers, and that is talk with my editors and fellow reporters about what the stories of the day were and figure out the best angles in which to talk about them. It is something that I love doing. It is one of my favorite parts of the DTNS experience, and now that will be available to patrons of DTNS. The whole recorded thing, which can go up to like 40 minutes, will be available for certain patrons. So
yeah, if you're a co-executive producer, you should have gotten it today. So check it out at patreon.com/DTNS, or would it show up in your full DTNS feed if you're subscribed to that? Also, supporters who give us just 25 cents a show get, among other things, a weekly column from myself. This week, I dig into why we can't get along and why I don't think it's fake news or the filter bubble that's the problem. You can get those thoughts and add your own at patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. We're at facebook.com/dailytechnewsshow, and our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Jen Cutter and Len Peralta. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
That is how you do today's show.
You're gosh darn right it is.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Me either.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Tell us your favorite titles as submitted at showbot.tv, Roger.
Favorite's kind of strong.
Oh, by the way, Jupe is pronounced Yoop. I should have corrected that in the show.
Jupe, Yoop. Facebook's new motto, portal to, hashtag portal to heaven, hashtag heaven portal.
Nice.
As a play on Justin's hashtag portal to hell /
hell portal, yeah.
Uber employees prefer Kalanick. We endeavor to bring you a better world. Google Glass still not dead. I try to spread it around all decades. Uber employees, next to nickname. And that was enjoying Kalanick. Cars as a service.
No Steve Largent titles? Stop it.
Mobike Wars.
Mobike Wars.
Mobike, Mo Services.
I'm a Mobike man from a Mobike game.
Zuckerberg, the Prezi Zuck. Adapt. No offense. No offense. Merritt explains Mobike. Tom, stop it. Class never went away. No more service silos. I like cars as a service, but
Justin asked Tom to stop. Tom won't apologize. I do like. We did this with Patrick one day. I like these descriptive titles as potential ideas.
Well, there's also the one with the 90s references. There's
which is itself a 90s reference to Friends.
That's amazing.
Well, right now, Justin asked Tom to stop. Tom won't apologize. And Facebook's new motto, hashtag portal to heaven, hashtag heaven portal. Or Justin asked Tom to know at the top.
I don't always enjoy flawed CEOs, but when I do,
I like to have a Kalanick.
We did have an Uber title yesterday, so it would be kind of nice to change it up.
Un-Uber it to non-Uber it.
Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead.
Yeah, that happens. That's one thing. That's 100% you can be sure of. When someone's dead, they stay dead.
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, that's fine. Let's wager on it.
I had a friend named Shelly Altop whose heart had stopped, and she was legally dead. And then she came back when she was a child.
I thought my dad was dead for 13 years.
There you go.
He was just lost.
Dad.
He was just lost in the supermarket.
Got me lost in a supermarket.
Motoring to Musk's music.
I really like either Justin has time to stop, Tom won't apologize, or the one with the 90s references.
I've kind of split between those very two myself.
Nobody will write a Steve Largent one, which I would have immediately thrown my full and unconditional support to, even if it had one
pun.
One vote. I mean, it was just the one with the Steve Largent reference, but I've run out of patience for someone to do it. So I would say either the one with the 90s reference or
I'm gonna go Justin asked Tom to stop. Tom won't apologize for two reasons. First reason being I really want to encourage this style of headline where we just describe, because I think that could be the one with meme. But secondly, I also think that the 90s references don't deliver. We didn't make enough of them.
Yeah.
In the episode. So
I'm with it. I'm with it.
All right. Justin asked Tom to stop. Tom won't apologize.
Make a mental note. Drop in more 90s references.
Hell yeah.
Throw in a few more Smash Mouth bits. There's really only two.
My problem with 90s references, as much as Lemon thinks I make them, I make them unintentionally. I didn't listen to a lot of mainstream music in the 90s.
Mainstream music.
I listened to a lot of local music in the 90s.
I remember listening to a lot of Jesus Jones.
Nice. Really? A lot of Jesus Jones? Was there that much to listen to?
No, it was just constantly like on looping.
I see.
Or what do they call it? Heavy rotation. That's the bucket. Then there was also the Kitchens of Distinction and a bunch of other really annoying British bands. There were a lot in the 90s. There's Republica. There's a lot of one-hit wonders that rolled in and out. That's what I remember from the 90s. That and that guy from Savage Garden with that jacket. That leather jacket that seemed so popular in the 90s.
TVZ gone. Because Lunchman his dreams have been crushed because he had the one with the 90s references as the title submission, which does have the most votes. And TVZ Gun says it's difficult when you have the one with the most votes, but this show, like America, is not truly a democracy. I am the guy who points out your 90s references. Nice. I'm going to try to make more 20s references.
So like what would be a sweet 20s reference?
Like
flapper jokes.
Yeah, flappers and 23
jazz.
Like bathtub gin, maybe.
Yeah.
Use the term.
Yeah, prohibition stuff. Right.
I'm gonna pop off a few real sweet Teapot Dome scandal cracks.
What are you, F. Scott Fitzgerald?
Also thrown liberally the use of brother.
Oh, you kid!
What? Hulk Hogan?
No, it was the term brother was used a lot back then.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
It's just the way you enunciate it.
Brother, can you spare a dime? Although that's 30s, but yeah, same era, roughly.
I mean, I think Hulk Hogan might have ruined that term because every time you hear brother, you might just hear Hulk Hogan. It's like Macho Man Randy Savage. You can't help but think that you need to eat some prunes when you hear anything said by that man.
Yeah. Always say everything twice. Yeah. Always say everything twice. Yeah.
And finish with, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's just... Ben, I think of that, and I also think of chewing tobacco, like Skull, because that was big in the 90s in my community, JC.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just a lot of guys chewing, and a couple of girls who chewed.
Skull was pretty popular in my high school.
You get the little circular outline in your back pocket.
Yep.
Because he was at the little canister there.
And Redman.
Maybe we did have Redman. I don't remember. Most of it was just Skull.
Skull had a minty.
What was the one that MLB players were doing? They were doing Chew and Big League Chew, the bubble gum, together.
Bubble gum, yeah.
And so when they were chewing, they would blow these like black bubbles, whether in
Ew.
like in the duck. It's nasty. What was the thing?
What was the like baseball players used to do like amphetamines? Was it greenies?
Yes, steroids. But why does that make me think of Daryl Porter? His drug of choice was cocaine. But yeah. Oh, who was it on the Cardinals that was accused of greenies? Now I can't remember.
Pete Rose? Yeah.
No. Tony Scott, maybe? I don't want to say that for sure, just in case Tony Scott.
It was apparently a fairly pervasive thing. I was
yeah.
one of the best, I would say the best wrestling podcast that's out there is Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, who is a former WWE talent executive and writer for years and years and years and years and years. And he was talking about a discussion he had with an MLB executive for a similar amount of time, and how especially in the 70s and 80s, the drugs that the athletes and the performers in wrestling were using were effectively the same, because they had a lot of the same road schedule, and it was the same kind of cocaine and amphetamines, like the trucker pills, basically in the morning to get you up and to keep you going, maybe right before the show or the game, and then booze and pot and everything and pills
to wind you down.
Yeah, to put you down.
Ludes, no ludes.
Not ludes. I mean, unless you're really trying to party.
I know nothing about the off-camera lifestyle of big name
baseball players or professional wrestlers.
Professional wrestlers, either one.
Yeah, I mean, all I know is what I've been told to on the podcast.
Did you ever have a hankering in your younger days to be like a WWF or WWE like groupie? Well, not groupie, but like you were just working. I know groupies are really bad.
No, I had a friend of mine that went through a few interviews to become a writer, because they do a lot of hiring for writers out of the New York stand-up scene. And so he got wind of it and wound up getting a few levels in to the interview process. But it's I've known a few people that have worked there. Almost universally, it might not be the best place in the world to work. It's a far better place to watch than to work, from what I hear, just because it's a grueling schedule and it's a mom and pop business, and ultimately
it's still a mom and pop.
It's a publicly traded company, but there is one man who makes all the decisions, and that. I can't remember how much of this story I can tell, but there was I know people that worked on a television show that the WWE was commissioning for their network. And they were told very specifically that they wanted one thing, right? They wanted they wanted this very, very specific bill of goods. And so they went and they shot it, and it was great. The first cut was awesome. It was everything that any wrestling fan could want. It was exactly what they asked for. They went every step of the way. And they were like, hey, are you sure you want us to show this? Are you sure you want us to show that? All they got back was yes, 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 yes. They put together. They're so proud of it. They submit it. And unfortunately, there's one man that was not on board with those decisions, and the people that gave them the yeses all the way along the way, all of a sudden changed their mind when the man upstairs said that he was not down with those decisions, and the entire thing was spiked and redone from that point on. And at that point, they were like, all right, turns out the rumors were true. This is a too unstable environment, even for people that create television.
Wow. That's a heart-wrenching story, or is it stomach-wrenching?
Well, I mean, these people are in an element of television that is very chaotic and weird and relies on.
Yeah, sure. I mean, big re-edits and projects being killed is not unusual, but that's pretty,
but
grand scale there.
It's hard when, I think for a lot of people that wind up going to work there, it's hard because you wind up, as a fan of wrestling, you have to defend it constantly. And so then you go to work for the cause. And this is not unlike a lot of people that go to work in political causes, you love these, you love the First Amendment, and you love animals, and you love protecting whatever rights. And then you go to work at the organizations that fight on the forefronts of these causes, and you realize that it's still an office where your boss might just be kind of an asshole. And, all the same things that normally happen don't imaginarily get washed away because you happen to like the product that's being produced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone has a similar story in whatever field that they're in. I think that's probably one of the more soul. Isn't it what it's kind of goes in line with the whole thing. Is like you don't really want to meet your heroes.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. And let alone, I think it's if we are to combine and braid cliches, it is
braid. I love that, braid cliches.
You don't want to meet your heroes, and you don't want to know how the sausage is made, right? If you are sitting back and enjoying this product, then you might not realize how many sleepless nights and conversations that ended in tears it took to get there. And you also don't want to realize that the person that you idolize might just kind of be a wiener penis.
I've been in the sausage factory. I know.
All right, enough about sausages here.
Tom's vegan.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a
All right. Thanks everybody for watching or listening, and we will speak to you again soon.
Indeed.
Tomorrow, actually.